Welcome everybody, I'm Josh, this is Alex, and we are the target audience. Content is made for everybody, but it's especially made for us. And today we're diving deep into MCU's The Eternals. We're going to be talking spoiler discussions about the whole film. So if you haven't seen the movie, go check out our spoiler-free review if you haven't watched that. That is already uploaded to the channel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we talk MCU, we watch stuff, Star Wars, trailers, Marvel, so subscribe if you haven't. But we're going to be jumping right in here, so this is your last spoiler warning about Eternals. Alex, I'll let you take it away wherever you want to start with something you couldn't talk about in our spoiler-free review.
Okay, in our spoiler-free review, I said the movie's great, when in reality, it sucks. No, I'm kidding.
That was the spoiler.
That was the spoiler. It's terrible. No, this movie is, like, wacky. It's like, I feel like every 25 minutes there's like a little twist or something. But I don't want to jump, all over. I kind of just want to go down the line and be like, okay, let's see how this goes. The movie starts off hot. It comes in with the title scroll. You're told about this planet Olympia and all these special people were chosen for this mission to protect Earth. And, I'm surprised how fast the action started. It says 5000 BC, and this little kid's playing on the beach, in, rags. And his dad's there, someone yells from the top, they're coming, and then the dad just goes run, and he just gets fucking eaten right away. I'm like, whoa, we're starting off hot. And then, but I think also before that, they spoke on the Eternal ship, saying like, oh, hey, I'm Icarus, what's your name? Cersei. So they don't know each other starting off, and then all of a sudden they're saving Earth, and it's like, they got their powers, and it's like, okay, here we go. They look like a team. They just met. And right off the bat, I'm like, this is strange. I don't know. What did you think going in, that first, 5-10 minutes?
So I heard that the movie started with a title crawl, so I expected that part of it. And that was fine. So my personal opinion is kind of a pet peeve of mine. I feel like Star Wars has carved out this tradition, so they're allowed to do the title crawl because that's their thing, right? Everyone expects that. But any other movie, I always feel like if you have to start your movie with exposition, and that can take many forms, so a title crawl, a voiceover in the beginning, and other MCU movies do this too, like Black Panther starts with this whole story at the beginning, for example. I feel like if you can't fit that into your movie, that's probably not a good thing that you just have to show it at the beginning. And I kind of felt that way about the title crawl. It was like, can you not just tell me this information throughout the movie instead of pushing it into my head? Because I'll be honest, once the movie started, it's not like I remembered anything that I just read. So
yeah, good point. I just remembered the planet's name and how they were sent to protect Earth.
Protect Earth, which I already knew from the trailers. I mean, I guess in theory maybe someone didn't see the trailers, but anyway, not a fan of title crawls unless you're Star Wars. But the opening scene where they do fight the Deviants is cool. I agree with you there. The guy getting eaten was a nice surprise. Kind of took me like, whoa, okay, I'm in this. And then also I really love the opening transition of the movie where they meet these, basically unintelligent people on Earth at the very beginning of civilization, and she turns the kind of knife or whatever the tool was into stone, and then turns it from stone into gold and hands it to him, and then it's the opening title of the movie. And then when we come back, it's showing modern day that same artifact on a big screen in the city, and Cersei is taking a photo of it with her phone and putting Instagram filters on it. I thought that was just a perfect explanation to just quickly sum up this is where we started and this is where we are now, just the total polar opposites of that. I thought was awesome, and that really later on helped when it came to the bouncing back and forth between time, which they do a lot, but I had already bought in because of that opening sequence.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that was the same thing. Wow, I dumbass didn't even catch it. But yeah, it's weird because you think they would try to hide that they're Eternals, but they kind of don't. I mean, they do a little bit. I mean, there's an earthquake, and a painting falls, and Cersei can turn objects into different forms of matter. So she turns the big painting into, I don't know, rose petals or whatever, right in front of the class. I mean, everyone's ducked underneath the tables, but she just does it. Anyone could have seen it, and it's almost like she doesn't care. I've been here 7,000 years, I don't really care. But and then also, main character Cersei's dating Kit Harington, who plays Dane. That's his name. And she knows. And the movie also kind of jumps in that regard. They're like, I'm teaching the class for you, blah, blah, blah. They walk out, they meet up with Sprite, who's the forever child who can create illusions, and all of a sudden, deviant out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then another fight's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, and all that stuff in London, I'll be honest, I wasn't like that at that point of the film. I wasn't really bought in about on any of that. I was just kind of like, okay, this is fine. That fight didn't really impress me that much, and it leads to probably my least favorite character, which is Dane, played by Kit Harington, not because of his performance, but because he's introduced here in the beginning, and then basically disappears for the entire movie. I think we see him one time over FaceTime, and then we see him at the end, and then it's like he has a post-credits scene where it's basically like, oh, so he was only in this movie to set up this post-credit scene in, Blade. Essentially, so it's like
exactly, yeah.
That was kind of one of those MCU tropes where it's like they've done it better before. Putting in a new character to set up a future movie, they've done it better. I think this was like one of the worst examples of it.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, just for like, you have to include the post-credit scenes as part of the movie, but like watching it, I'm like, why was Kit Harington in this? Mm-hmm. And even for the post-credit scene, it's like I looked it up. He's like Black Knight or something. So yeah. I guess that has something to do with Blade. But the entire time I saw him, like, why are you here? And this also leads to the introduction of Icarus, which is basically Superman. And Icarus and Dane meet, which is like a cute little wink to the audience. Well, it happens for two reasons. It's like, oh, they meet. They were both in Game of Thrones together. But also because Cersei is dating Kit Harington. And we also learned through this that Icarus was dating Cersei, like 2,000 years ago, and then they separated. And later on in the movie, they don't really say why they separated. It's the fact that he left. I mean, we know later that he learns the truth of why this is happening, but it didn't really explain like why he had to leave for 2,000 years.
Why he left, but yeah, they didn't really get into it. Like it was kind of like, oh, he found this out and he couldn't handle like lying to her, so he left. But it was not dived into at all.
Yeah, it was not. Yeah, there's too much else going on in this. But basically, like, and then this leads to like the It. Before that, they noticed that this is a little too expositional for me. Like, Icarus blasts the one deviant and it starts to heal, and like right away, Sprite's like, "How is it healing?" It's like a little too on the nose. It's like they should have. Like, I'm no expert, but they should have done it. They beat it, they kill it, whatever, and then later on they're like, that deviant healed. They've never healed before, and then I think there might have been also little hints about that Salma Hayek's character, like she had the healing power, and I didn't even realize it until like maybe an hour later. I forgot that she had that power because it's so like jumping back and forth and so many characters to keep track of that you don't know.
Yeah, and it was very on the nose. It might as well have been like, look, it's healing. Like, it was very like on the nose, and there was a lot of that in this movie. Some of it I understood to the extent of, obviously, I would say this is a more adult MCU film, to be honest. It is PG-13, but there's kids watching it, so, I understood it. But at the same time, there was a lot of it like that, where things would happen, where they expositionally talk, even though you already can clearly see what's going on. But after that, once they get attacked by the Deviants and they go to meet Salma Hayek, and they find her dead, Ajak, dead at her farm, and that was the first kind of big twist of the movie. I'm like, wow, I did not expect her to be dead this early on, and it's not a trick, it's not a gag, she's actually dead. They do, obviously, you see her in flashbacks later on, but as far as being in this story, she is not there. That was a surprise, and I think it was a good surprise in the sense that it got me. I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, I thought they pulled the typical MCU trailer grab, where people were afraid to see this movie, so they're like, oh, because in the trailer is her talking about Thanos, like, oh, 5 years ago Thanos snapped away the population, so people go, oh, Thanos, I know who he is, let's go see this. So I thought maybe it was just a trailer grab twist, like, oh no, she's dead. Salma got her money and got out of there. Maybe I don't know, but obviously that wasn't the case. I thought the twist was there's a lot of twists in this movie. Yeah, so that was surprising, her dead, and there's like almost like a Green Lantern type, another DC trope where like there's a sphere that comes out of her, and she's like the one who's able to communicate with
Aramish,
yeah, who is like the Grand Eternal.
Or Arishem.
Arishem, yeah. And she was able to communicate with Arishem. She knew the purpose and why they were there, but no one else really knew the true purpose. Like, oh, we're here to help these people. But basically, we find out that Eternals are born through planets, and that's basically the cycle of life in this movie. Energy is sent out. These seeds are sent out to all these random planets, and Earth is one of them. And when there's enough cosmic energy, soul, enough living beings, like that provides the energy for a celestial to be born from it, and everyone dies. So that's the actual enemy.
Yeah, and we don't even learn this, at that point. We learn that much later on, but the whole sequences where they go to see Arishem, when it's Salma Hayek or Cersei, Gemma Chan playing Cersei, whoever goes to talk to him, he's voiced by this guy, David Kaye, who I guess is most known for voicing Clank in the Ratchet and Clank games. His voice is insane, and I'm sure they did effects to it, but it's like this loud, booming voice, and like the surround sound in the theater, anytime he would talk, you could literally feel this presence of this huge celestial talking. I thought that was excellent.
Yeah, I was in a regular theater, and still, when he pops up in front of him, it's like, whoa. It's like, I thought that the guy who voiced Darkseid was impressive, but whatever they did to this guy's voice was like, this is up there. This is big. This is really big.
Yeah, and all those sequences were some of my favorite. When he first talks to Ajax, Salma Hayek, when he's talking to her and she's like starting to say, I think that the Earth and humans are different. We shouldn't risk this. And he's like basically like, nah, get out of here. And then later on when he's talking to Cersei, and then eventually he walks Cersei through the whole thing of what the plan is. All those sequences where they're really cosmic and out there, and you have his like big booming voice talking you through it. I think it was some of the weirdest parts, but it was also some of my favorite parts because it was so out there and the effects were so well done that it was really cool to see.
Yeah, I just felt like he almost felt like a Bond villain, where it's like, this is what we're actually doing. But as we get into it, we find out that like he's not really a Bond villain. It's like he lets them do what they're gonna do. It's like, hey, just so you know, this is the plan. But, yeah, we'll get into that. That's way later.
Yeah, because at no point, I mean, you see at the end of the film, he just fucking shows up, right? And just grabs him. And so you think to yourself, at any point, he could have done that. So
yeah.
he doesn't really step in. It's almost like back from, like, Thanos in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, where he's just sitting down the throne the whole time. It's like, he doesn't really get his hands dirty until the end. He just shows up, and he's like, all right, you're coming with me. He kind of lets them play out the events of the movie, even though at any point he could just, kill them all.
Yeah, and it's like a really godlike complex. Like, okay, you found out that this planet was worth saving to kill a celestial. Let's see if you were right, and then takes him like to be judged. I guess like he's not pissed off about it. It's just like, all right, let's go.
Which also kind of sounds like maybe this has happened before. I mean, I don't know if they'll ever get into it, but clearly there's like a process in place where he's like, okay, we'll see. And just I know we're jumping ahead, but since we're talking about it, just that end shot of when he shows up on Earth, when it's like a storm clouds, and then it's just like his head. It's like, dude, we're at a point in the MCU between this, Shang-Chi with the dragons and everything, and then it's just like, we're at a point where it's like, if you're just a normal human in the MCU universe, it's like at any time, it's like, oh, it's just a huge celestial shows up in the sky. You have no idea what's happening, It's like everyone's just so helpless. But it was a really cool visual, though.
Yeah, at least it didn't happen in New York,
Yeah, true. So after that, when they find Salma Hayek, they have to get the rest of the people together, and this to me was the weakest part of the movie. I think maybe that's what you're referring to as like the It part or whatever. But
like It Chapter 2, we gotta get the band back together one by one. We gotta reintroduce them. What are they up to? What have they learned? What are they upset about? What happened? And there's in between all those, there's flashbacks of what happened. We find out that Angelina Jolie's character, Athena, she has some weird condition where she like loses her memory or remembers something where like they're all enemies. And Hulk Hands guy, volunteers to deal with her because they care about each other. Kingo's a movie star, which I thought was hilarious. Where they're on his airplane, it's like, oh, so you played your grandfather, your father, and yourself in all these movies.
Yeah.
Like he's pretending to be the same person.
And Angelina Jolie, you know, we mentioned like we find out eventually later on that these memories she's having, it's actually memories of the other planets being destroyed. But I felt it was so repetitive, and there were some characters where I enjoyed that backstory when they go and meet them, like Kingo or like Fastus with Brian Tyree Henry with his husband and kid. You know, there were some backstories that were cool to see, but it's just so many of them, and it just happens over and over and over for like half an hour of the movie, where it's like, now let's go get this person, now let's go get this person. Like when they go pick up Druig, for example, as much as I like, you know, that actor and that character, it's like, okay, he's just somewhere in a random village. He's a dick, and they pick him up, you know. And then it's like, okay, Makari, she's just in the ship reading books for some reason. They go and pick her up.
She was like not mentioned at all from the beginning of the movie to like that point where she came back. I forgot that she was one of them, and she's deaf for some. Like each one of them has their little quirks, which is weird because. Well, we find out what they really are. It's like, why do they need to have these quirks? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not, again, it's very vague and not really explained. They kind of say, oh, well, she's deaf because her power is that she can hear the vibrations, like even of people talking or whatever. And it's like, okay, you know, but it's like, it's not really explained, you know, why she would be made deaf or why are any of these characters made the way they are. We're just supposed to accept it, which, I mean, okay, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, fine, I'll accept that, whatever.
Is this if that's how they are in the comics? And I mean, that's the source material, and you don't need to have it explained. But I mean, I don't even know how the Eternals were they created this way. If this is just like an MCU Iron Man 3 twist, I would have to look into it. Or is that really what they are? Like, I'm just going off the film. I don't know.
Yeah,
this seems weird.
And also, another character I want to bring up that's with Kingo. I can't remember the character's name, but it's basically like the cameraman that, you know, follows him around. He was like the director on the movie that he was shooting. I'm trying to find the actor and the name of the person here, but he was hilarious, and I really enjoyed. He could definitely have been like just an annoying character who's there to make jokes that don't work, but he was actually, I thought, very funny, and it was a pretty good addition, you know, to the movie in my opinion.
Yeah, he was. I've liked him on his own. I mean, when he was bouncing off of Kingo, like it didn't really work for me. But like him interacting with others, and then he also has a really nice moment at the end where it's like, okay, this is what we have to, and he says thank you. I thought that was a really beautiful tie off for him, and didn't end with a joke. Like he wasn't just a comic relief; he was also a good character, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, it looks like his name's Haresh Patel. He played, I think it's Karun. But yeah, really enjoyed that. One that I didn't enjoy that I couldn't really talk about without spoilers was Sprite. I think that her character motivation is basically, I love Icarus and that's it. And again, not explained why she's a young girl, why she was created that way. But she is. So it's like, okay, whatever. And Kingo kind of explains the Peter Pan Tinkerbell theory that he has about it, which I got what he was saying, but it's just like a very weak motivation in my opinion. And then, then she turns evil when Icarus turns evil because she loves Icarus. It just all felt very weak and did not really enjoy her story in the movie. But at the end, she does get turned into a human, and she's not taken by Aramish or I'm sorry, Arishem, and she doesn't go back on the ship. So she's really the only character that's just somewhere on Earth somewhere, supposedly as a normal human. But yeah, didn't really enjoy her that much.
Yeah, when she like turned at the end, I'm like, what? Just like that. It's like it felt a little like. And also, to keep jumping back and forth, like, the final battle, Kingo just leaves.
Yeah.
Like I'm leaving, and then like, afterwards, he's just there putting bags in the car. I'm like, where did you go?
Yeah.
It's like, was a scene cut? And, like, I noticed this film had, like, 3 different screenwriters, so I don't know if, like, one hand was talking to the other, like, oh, shit, we never brought him back. Who knows?
Well, he does say, when they're, like, after Icarus reveals what's going on, he's like, I agree with Icarus. Like, he was basically with Icarus, but he's like, but I'm not going to fight any of you. He's like, I'm not gonna, it's not worth it to me, or it's like, if we die, whatever. But, he was basically like, I agree with Icarus, we should let this continue, and that's why he left. And I did think it was weak in the sense of, like, okay, like, you could have found a way to use him in there, in that final battle, but honestly, maybe it made it cleaner, that final battle having less people. I don't know what the reason would be, but it was nice that when they had that fracture, it wasn't like just Icarus, and then everyone else was like, oh no, this is bad, we have to stop it. There was actually that friction and that, argument between everyone in the Eternals, and the philosophical stuff in the movie I really enjoyed. Like, should we stop Earth from being destroyed? Because if we do, we're actually preventing more lives in the future than we're saving right now. So there's a lot of philosophical questions that unfortunately didn't really dive deep into, but it was cool to see them included.
Yeah, yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that one. But like at the end, Cersei needed like everyone's energy to stop the Eternal, Tiamat or whatever. It's like, and you notice like everyone just all of a sudden when she put the hands on the stone and like everyone started floating up like that. Wouldn't she need Kingo there too, or was 6 people enough? 7?
Yeah.
It's like that was the only thing. I'm like, I looked for him. Like, is he floating somewhere? Was he hiding?
And how did he leave? He just walked because he didn't take the ship.
I'm out of here. I mean, he had a plane. I don't know. Maybe the dude brought the plane. But so should we go into when we go to meet Druig and like he's like, I like his ideals, but also it's like he could literally stop all war and everything, but like people won't have any growth or free will. And I thought that was great. And then out of surprise, another deviant attack, and then Thena has another meltdown, and we lose Gilgamesh. Yeah. He dies. And when he dies, one of the deviants absorbs him the same way that Salma Hayek was absorbed, where they got the healing power. But like when this one deviant absorbs him, he gains a little bit of consciousness and's able to talk. Like, did it come from that? Like, he didn't get Hulk hands, but he...
Again, it's very vague, very unexplained. But my impression was that Arishem explains that the deviants he created and then they eventually evolved. My guess was that it was just they're further evolving, like by absorbing these Eternals. It was like making them evolve until eventually he became conscious. Mm-hmm. But yeah, very messy. It's not really explained.
Yeah, it almost feels like just slip that in there. And I thought we also learned that, hey, you've been slaughtering us. You're the deviants. You're the enemies here. Like, we're both like pawns of the Eternals here. And I thought we were gonna have like 2 different children of God coming together to take God out. Like, I thought that'd be cool, but no,
that would have been cool.
But no, they just still. Thena just fights the main one, who's also voiced by Bill Skarsgård, apparently. Like, I saw him in the credits. Yeah, I'm like, Bill Skarsgård? Where the hell was he? But
that's hilarious, actually.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, cool. It's like almost similar to Captain Marvel. We're like, what are they called? The Transformer guys.
I don't even remember. The Kree?
Skrulls.
Oh, okay.
Like, the Skrulls aren't the enemy. It's like I thought it was one of those. Like, we need to come together to fight the Eternal, but like they
were evil.
It was just nope, they're evil.
It was cool though when Thena fucked him up and killed him at the end. That was actually pretty cool when she sliced.
Oh yeah, that was neat.
That was like her best moment.
Yeah, I mean, like it's funny because it cuts from Richard Madden, Icarus crying, and then it just cuts to Thena just staring out in the distance. It's like.
Yeah, I would say
oh my god,
all 3 of those characters, Thena, Druig, and Gilgamesh, were the 3 for me that I didn't really feel positively or negatively. They were just kind of there. I liked the irony of Druig's character that his power is basically taking over others' free will, but that he's the one that has like reservations about humans' free will. So I enjoyed that dynamic there, but he doesn't get enough time in the movie to really dive into it.
Yeah, in the trailers, like I'm like, okay, the deviants just can't be the enemy. I totally thought that he was going to be the one to turn. I totally thought. And they were also talking about, I might be able to control the Eternals. It's like the Celestial. It's like, have you even tried to control any of your Eternal brothers and sisters? Like, do you even know if you can? But they don't even use him in that way.
Yeah.
And you like Cersei, but I didn't feel like she was that useful throughout the film until the very end. It's like maybe because everyone's limited to their one power and that's it, but I feel like definitely towards the end she was kind of just like she was able to turn the bus into rose petals and something else, but besides that, like being chosen as leader, there wasn't much for her to do until the very end. But maybe it's like the leader bringing the team together. That was, but it didn't. She, it's tough. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the reason I liked her is because her power, where she turns stuff, material, was like, okay, whatever. But then once she progresses in the movie where she can do it to sentient beings, like when she turns the deviant when they're underwater, turns it into like a fucking tree, I was like, oh, that's sick as hell. Like if you could, if she could start doing that to sentient beings, like enemies or whatever, that's like an awesome power, in my opinion. And then obviously she does it at the end, turning the Celestial into stone. And then also just Gemma Chan's performance. I thought she, acting wise, was her and Richard Madden, who plays Icarus, I think were by far the best in the movie. Especially Richard Madden was awesome. I mean, I've never seen a villain reveal where the villain is crying to the rest of the people in the movie because he's so sad about being a villain. So you like both feel sympathetic towards him, but you're also like, oh, you're the villain. So he had a great performance. But Gemma Chan as well, I just thought her performance was really good too. So that's more so why I liked it than rather the character's like usefulness. I can kind of agree with you. Like at the end, she's just like standing on this volcano, like getting fucked up by other people.
And it's like, it's not her fault. I mean, that's just the way they gave the powers. I don't know. But I think I totally did not expect Richard Madden Icarus to be the enemy. I thought that was a nice twist. And like you find out that scene in front of the cabin in South Dakota, like Icarus kills Salma Hayek. And it's like, oh shit. And then deviants come. Well, kills her by giving her to the deviants. It's like, oh, they were unfrozen in the ice. That's where
Convenient.
they've been. Global war. Yeah, a little global warming, a little stints maybe. I don't know. But I totally did not expect him to be the villain. I should have expected it after seeing Rocket Man. Is that the name of the Elton John film? Where he was good, and then he ended up being a dick.
That's where they got it.
It's like, I should have known. But yeah, his range of being, a good guy to a villain was great. And I thought his arc at the end was good. I mean, his motivation, like, oh, I have to listen to Arisheim, I have to listen to the Celestial. It's like, okay, it's like a little too, like, not much thought going into there. But once he realizes it's not just about serving your purpose, and he realizes his love with Cersei, and he has that beautiful moment where he's crying, and it's like, whew. And then I think this show also relates to Invincible. I'm like, oh, he's gonna fly back to
big Invincible moment.
Yeah, he's gonna fly back to the Celestial, but no, he
just kills himself.
Flies right into the sun, which is funny because I think earlier in the film they mentioned like, oh, you're the guy that flew too close to the sun.
Yeah, and
he literally did at the end. So nice little poetry, it rhymes moment there.
I thought it was a bit goofy. Like, oh, I'm a bad guy. Flies into the sun. Like I thought it was like, okay,
yeah.
He can't just be a hero because he killed Salma Hayek, so he can't just like be good. But just to kill yourself and throw yourself into the sun, it was a bit much for me.
Same thing with Sprite, now being human. It's like, oh, we know you're gonna age because in real life you're a teenager. You're gonna age, and you're gonna be 2 years older by the time the next one comes out. So
that's a good point.
Like, oh, there's still a little bit of energy left. It's like, okay. Okay, I can just do this thing that's never been done. It's like,
how you feel about Icarus? I actually feel the opposite, where the way he feels about he has to continue to serve Arishem. That's how I thought everyone would feel. Because, I mean, like, this is their entire life. I mean, I understand that their memories are wiped from the past planets, but it's like their entire life is to serve Arishem. Like, imagine if not only you believed in God, but you also knew for a fact that God was real and gave you a direct mission. You know what I mean? So when they find out it's to destroy Earth, I was like, okay, Cersei wants to stop it. I can buy that. Brian Tyree Henry, his character, he has a family now. I can buy that he would want to stop it. But for just everyone to all of a sudden want to stop it, I was like, that's why I was glad there was that fracture, because it was realistic to me that there would be Icarus and there would be characters that are like, okay, well, yeah, this kind of sucks, but like this is what we have to do. It's our mission. So I really enjoyed, that part of it. And we didn't mention this before, but with Phastos, Brian Tyree Henry's character, going back to the nuke being dropped, and his whole power,
I wanted to bring that up. Yeah,
his power basically helping humans advance technology, and him breaking down and being like, this is my fault because I gave them this technology, and basically giving up on humans. But then the fact that he finds a husband and has a child, and that's how he regains his faith in humanity, I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like he's like the inventor character. He can create anything. It's like, what did he give them where he didn't realize, oh shit, they're making a bomb. You know what I mean? And they were instructed not to interfere at all unless deviants were involved. And I feel like they kind of forgot that, and they
Oh, they got
interfered
involved.
they got involved quite a bit. You know, they're having relationships and all this. I mean, I get it. I think the only one who did the job was Mockery. You know, just staying in the ship, like just waiting. It's like, hey, I've been waiting 2,000 years for you guys, and everyone else is like, I'm bored. You know, because they all have humanistic qualities. It makes me wonder. All the other worlds, it's like, did they look like they do here? Was it like,
Yeah.
remember Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with Kurt Russell was making out with all these aliens?
Yeah.
Like young Kurt Russell's like having sex with all these aliens.
And they show a sequence when Arisham's showing Cersei like the whole past. They show one sequence where the deviants are killing some people on another previous planet, and they look like aliens, like they're blue or whatever. So I mean, they acknowledge that that humans look like this. So is that why the Eternals look like this? It's just one of those things they don't really go into.
Yeah, maybe they did look different. I'm not sure. And I also find it interesting that the Celestials originally made the deviants to destroy primitive part of life, and then like it wasn't advancing, so then they brought the Eternals. Like the deviants came first, right? And they're like, oh, the deviants failed. I need to create the spoiler. They're robots, pretty much. They're all robots, and like he stores all their memories. Like I don't know if that's going to open up some multiverse type thing later. Like I don't know why he has all the memories stored, but he does. And Thena's glitches are her remembering those memories.
Yeah.
And
real quick, so what he says is that he created the deviants to basically do the job that the Eternals are doing, but then the deviants evolved and became predators themselves. Like their original job was to get rid of dinosaurs, like all the predators, so that intelligent creatures could come, but then they themselves turned into predators, so he had to make the Eternals, and the reason that he keeps the memories is to learn from them to fix future mistakes. Pretty flimsy.
Okay, yeah.
It's all pretty flimsy, but that's the explanation.
Yeah, it's like every half an hour we'll get this new info. It's like, oh, this is why this is happening. Oh, this is this person. It's like,
it's a lot.
Whoa, it's a lot. Yeah, it's like I didn't bring a notepad, so I'm glad I'm talking with you about this because there's little details that I definitely missed.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, overall, I think I want to transition more into how it's going to affect the MCU and, like, all of those types of things. So, the mid-credits scene I thought was hilarious and awesome. The fact that Harry Styles is in the movie. And not only is Harry Styles in the MCU, but he's Eros, the brother of Thanos. I think that's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Apparently Patton Oswalt plays the troll.
Yeah.
His troll companion. Yeah.
What was his name? Pip or something? Yeah, Pip the troll.
Pip, yeah. And I remember seeing like an article months ago, like, oh, Harry Styles is Thanos' brother. I'm like, no sport, whatever. I kind of forgot about it. And then I saw him, and I like it how these creatures have been alive for 7,000 years. And Thanos is probably like 1,000 years old, and he's still like, oh, they all know it. Like Thanos is like a celebrity. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like he's the most well-known villain like ever. It's like he has to introduce himself as like Thanos' brother, which is cool. And I think I was reading about it. It's like it's their own form of Eternals, maybe, because he has a sphere too. So he's another Celestial's Eternals, maybe. Which means Thanos is a type of Eternal as well, possibly, with deviant, with a little deviant modification. Some have theorized. I'm not sure, but yeah, Harry Styles, holy shit, that was crazy.
I'm excited to see what happens. I am questioning, like, how are you Thanos' brother, and like Thanos looks like a purple alien, and you look like Harry Styles. But I mean, I'm sure.
Apparently, I've read the Infinity War. Like everyone. From what I remember, like everyone looks like a human except for Thanos. Like Thanos is like he was literally the outcast.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so it'll be interesting to see where that goes. I don't know if he's only going to be back in Eternals 2 or if they have other plans for him. I don't know, but we'll see what happens there. As far as the other credit scene where we see Dane uncover like a sword, and then you hear Mahershala Ali say something to him there at the end. Like I think
was that who that was?
Yeah, well, he's playing Blade, so that's who I assume it is.
I think he said, "Are you sure about that, Mr. Whitman?" I think that's what he said. His name's Dane Whitman, I think. And I just went, who does Kit Harington play in and then a bunch of Black Knight stuff came up. I'm like, okay, he's this character I've never heard of. There's rumors he was playing Moon Knight, and then I see this. I'm like, did they literally just cast him as a significant other? Because that sucks. Because come on, it's Kit Harington. It's not Harrington, just. So they were smart enough. Like, okay. Towards the end, it's like, oh, I have to tell you about my family lineage. I'm like, okay, something's happening here. All right.
I did think the ending of the movie there was kind of weird, kind of awkward, how they all get taken by Arishem, and then it just shows Kit Harington standing there, and then it just ends. It was like, oh, okay. It was a little bit abrupt.
Yeah, Eternals will return.
Yeah,
it's almost they were like, this movie's too long, cut it. It's like, end it.
It's too much.
Too much. Cut. That's a wrap.
And
here's what we got.
Also, I noticed it was interesting that he only picked up Arishem only took the ones that were still on Earth, Cersei, Phastos, and Kingo, because the other 3 left on the ship. Angelina Jolie, the people that see Harry Styles there in the credits.
Yeah.
It's interesting that he only picks up those 3, assuming that Arishem would be. I mean, you tell me he can't find where they are on the ship, but whatever. But I enjoyed it. And as far as the MCU, first of all, it's going to be cool that now there's just this monument on the other side of the world of a celestial coming out of the planet turned into stone. That's pretty sick. Cool to see if that ever gets referenced again. But beyond that, that's the weird thing about the MCU now is it's like, how do you go from this to watching Spider-Man next month? Well, I mean, that's kind of its own thing, but even Doctor Strange in May, it's like, okay, we just saw this huge story about the planet being created for the sole purpose of a celestial being born, and this huge story, and now we're just back to regular MCU. It feels a little bit weird. It's a little bit to adjust to.
But it's like literally in the last Marvel was Loki the last Marvel project to come out.
As far as a show, I mean, there was Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi, yeah, which is also back to main timeline. I mean, at the end of Loki, the biggest theorized type deal they've been teasing forever, the multiverse. They teased it in Far From Home, and they twist in WandaVision, oh, hey, remember him from X-Men? They teased it there. It's and then Falcon Winter Soldier, great story on its own, but nothing to do with. And then finally, multiverse is open. It's whoa, and then we jump back to Shang-Chi. It's okay, we're starting over. It's I feel it. We're building, back up again. But Multiverse of Madness is in just over a month. So, I mean, not
No Way Home.
No Way Home. It's they just keep mentioning multiverse throughout the trailer. It's
yeah. It's odd though that we keep having these properties like Loki, No Way Home, Doctor Strange in May. It seems like in each one they're doing their own version of opening up the multiverse. It's what I mean. From the No Way Home trailer at least, it's not they go into that movie and are so these events happened in Loki. So you know what I mean? They're doing their own thing. So I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. If another trailer comes out on Spider-Man, obviously we'll react to it and we'll see if we get any more info there. And the movie's only a little over a month away, so it's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
But with this movie, I think it stands enough on its own to be, a pretty good MCU entry. There's not much connection. There's no cameos, really, of anyone from the MCU that already existed, like there was at the end of Shang-Chi. So, I mean, it is really its own thing, but it did interest me, kind of like how Guardians did back in 2014. It interested me to see how this will eventually tie in, even though it'll probably take a few years.
Yeah, very similar to Guardians. With Guardians Galaxy 1, there was no one except for, hey, Thanos. Thanos is here. And on the flip side of this one, Eros is here, Thanos' brother. So that's a nice little parallel. Really quick side note, if this movie had some extreme balls, I thought, what if the Celestial won? And then you just hear the Watcher talking. In this universe, celestial seed landed on Earth, but in the main timeline it didn't. It's what if the whole movie was just a big what if episode? I mean, that'd be a huge ballsy, that'd be, it's none of that happened. What if a celestial seed went to a different planet or went to Mars, and then it cuts to Mars and there's life on Mars or something after Earth blows, but that's too much,
Yeah, or even something it destroys the Earth and then somehow. I don't know how it would resolve in this movie, but somehow in Doctor Strange or something, it's we're going to jump to another timeline where basically everything's the same except the story's going to continue, but now we're in this different timeline. There could have been some big swings taken, but that would have been extremely ambitious for an already ambitious movie. So,
Yeah, that would have been an extreme take on a bit of an extreme risk of a movie almost.
Yeah.
So,
and I loved how in that battle, turning him to stone, it's not your typical. Obviously, they're fighting Icarus, but it's not your typical like, here's the bad guy, boom, 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 you know, and then it's like, he's dead now, you know. It's just like no one else besides the Eternals could have solved this. And also, the only reason the Eternals were able to beat him is because they explained they were connected to the Celestial. So like they used the Celestial's power on himself to turn him to stone.
Yeah.
It was very unique, because when it started happening, when we started getting to the end, I'm like, how are they going to have the Eternals literally defeat a Celestial and then we're supposed to take any other villain seriously? But the fact that it's not like they straight up killed him with brute force, they had to, you know, do this thing that only they could do in that circumstance. It kind of, it was very clever the way that they did it.
yeah, Fastos realized he can create something that connects them all to, you know, take control and be able to attack the Celestial, you know, through the power of friendship. You know, the real story is the friends we made along the way, you know, that type of deal. He explained it a lot better than I did, but I thought that was neat because the entire time I'm like, how the hell are we going to, you know.
Yeah.
And also, like, really quick, we keep going. You know, everyone has their unique power, and, like, all of a sudden, like, they just put Icarus, he has super strength now almost. Like, I thought he could just fly in laser beams. And it's like, I feel like they made him super strong at the end out of nowhere. Like, I never...
Yeah.
Because there's a great shot when they're go to Druig's land with all of his primitive people. And there's like a minute long, like, no cut where Icarus is fighting the Deviant, and he keeps trying to turn and use his lasers, but he can't. I'm like, oh, this is so... It's like if Superman wasn't strong, if he can just fly. Like, I thought that was super cool. He's like, come on, I'm just trying to... I can't hit this motherfucker. You know, I thought that was great, but then he's just super strong against the other Eternals. I'm like, you know, Superman.
Yeah.
But
and real quick, since you already brought it up too, the DC stuff, not for me. The references, not for me. If you want to throw in one as a joke, but they had two separate DC references, one about Alfred and Batman, and then one about Superman.
Yeah.
They both directly named the DC characters. Like, it wasn't just like, who are you, Alfred? He's like, oh, you're Alfred from Batman. You know, it's like...
from the DC universe.
Yeah, it's like, we get it. DC Comics exist in your universe. I understand.
Yeah. The more subtle one was like the Star Wars, you know, Theosaurus just sitting on the IKEA table that he breaks. Also, everyone in my theater laughed at that joke. I'm like, it was in the trailer, guys. Come on. Come on. Are you really all seeing this blind, really?
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it unless you have anything else.
No, I can keep going all day, but
Yeah,
I think I got everything I wanted to say about this one. I would recommend it. I had a lot of fun watching it. I would see it in IMAX. I mean, I saw it in regular theaters and I had a good time, but seeing the Celestial in IMAX, that would be incredible. So
yeah, even if you've already seen it, which if you watched this whole video, I hope you did. But even if you've already seen it, but not in IMAX, I would definitely recommend it as well. But all right, that'll do it for us here at Target Audience. And yeah, I think that'll be it.
This is the Target Audience, where content is made specifically for us, but it might also be for you. Take care.